Good afternoon. You have joined us at the Senior Moment with Herb Keener, and I am Herb Keener. And I'm here today to just talk about what's going on in the lives of the seniors and what's going on in our own lives. The first segment, I'm going to talk about my book. It's Decision to Die, Strength to Live. Now, this is a book about some of the bad decisions I made when I was younger. But today I'm going to go over a chapter or two and just kind of point out some things that I did go through that if there's anybody in your family ever thinking about doing something that's illegal or dealing with drugs, this would be the book to hand them, because I found out the hard way there is consequences to your actions. If you are in an illegal situation, you are going to get some illegal consequences. Now, far as myself, where I come from was the east side Stockton, little place called Okieville. Now, that's where I began my career as a human being. And like I said many times before, it's not so much of the good people we meet, but it's those that have ulterior motives that are looking to do something that's not in line with laws, not in line with reality, but just in line with greed. When they're dealing with drugs and taking them from one state to another, or taking them from one country, bringing them into the States. Well, I hooked up with a person that connected me to a particular syndicate that their job was to bring in a lot of drugs from Mexico, and they needed a new runner, and I was appointed to do that. Took them over a year to finally determine that I was trustworthy. They tested me, set me up many times. They were plenty patient. And then finally, one day come that they said, okay, we feel we can trust you with our product. So the first thing I did was help them unload a big load come out of Mexico and into Modesto, California. And I mean, they had the top part of a motorhome hollowed out, and it was full of compressed marijuana. Now, this is in 1984, so it's not like it is today, just a slap on the wrist. You're talking about many years into prisons if you get caught doing what I was doing. But I was just a newly bought runner, because the only thing I was looking for was money. I wasn't even using drugs at the time. I just started to be their new runner. Well, the first thing that come out of all this was I made 2 or 3 runs, and then it turns out there was an undercover agent in this organization for the last 3 years. And he's the person I was dealing with. So naturally, the book goes into detail as how it all come about. There was times that I just figured I was done, and I couldn't outrun them. I couldn't outthink them, and they definitely had more manpower than I did. So this book goes into the fact of, to the moment that I decided to take my life because I wasn't in control of who I was. I let somebody else control me. Now, I was 44 years old this time, or 43, and that was at a time that I made some really bad decisions. Being uneducated and not knowing how to make a living the correct way, or not wanting to, just out of being lazy maybe. But the main thing is that I decided to join these people and do it. I was a small-time little pot seller in there Okieville, but nothing big and nothing. But when I hooked onto these people, the first thing they tested me with was 30 pounds. I brought them back $17,000. Now, that made them excited. It just confirmed that I was okay for the job. Second time, I took them something like 200 to 300 pounds. And then the third time, which was the time that the undercover agents made their move, it was 300 pounds or whatever it was. It kept getting larger. The plan was to bring in 3,000 pounds a week. And you can't imagine paying $200 a pound and selling for $2,000. There's a pretty good profit there. And naturally, my head was reeling. But my decision was based on greed, nothing else. I wasn't thinking about the youngsters there in Chattanooga and the area of Tennessee. So I proceeded to do this, but when I figured out that I couldn't outrun them, I just decided to take my life because I couldn't do 40 years. I don't think I could make it. So then that's the name of the book, Decision to Die, Strength to Live. It is action-packed. Everybody that's gave me feedback has let me know that it's an intensified time. He said as they were reading it, they felt this anxiety of the things that I was doing. And it was the crazy time of life that I was in. I mean, just totally unbelievable that I even got myself in that position, to a position where it was better off if I died instead of living on. So this book needs to be in the hands of those youngsters that are thinking about doing anything like that. If they're dealing with marijuana on a small scale, it's not so much the drug that will keep you hooked up, it's the people that will get introduced to you because of that drug. And it's the people that will entice you and pull you in. This book will allow them to see what the time is, and when you get to talking about, boy, that'd be great, there's no problem, nobody knows but me and you. Now, that's a lie of the devil. Number one, if they're telling you nobody knows but me and you, then your life is in his hands, and if you trust him enough, you're going to go ahead with it. But you can't trust anybody in that field. So youngsters need to get their hands on this book. They need to read it with the anticipation of learning something, not just reading it to get excited or see what's going on. This is a type of book that shows exactly how first step, second step, third step, and the next thing you know, you're in the mainstream. But when it all falls down, you're underneath the pile. Those that got you there, they're on top of the pile, so they're breathing fine, but you're underneath the pile when it all comes apart. And you won't be able to be breathing and do things. And if you happen to make a mistake, they may take you out anyway. So the first thing is, there's plenty of things to do in this life that doesn't involve dealing with drugs or dealing with people with history of criminal activity. There's plenty to do. But see, for me, I decided there isn't anything I can do. This is the greatest way I'll make money, because otherwise I'll never have enough money. I mean, I worked and done things in my earlier years before I turned 40, but by the time I got to 40 and 42 and 43, I'd already decided I'd run into enough people that I had connections that I would be able to just make a killing, just millions. You know, we at 3,000 pounds a week, my goodness, that would in short period of time would turn into millions of dollars. But one quick short moment, it turned into zero. It turned into not being able to breathe good, not being able to understand whether you're going to have a next breath or not. That's why it's important these young people read this book. I mean, there's a lot of books about, what we used to be and what we are now and what we're trying to accomplish. And they're all probably good. But everything in this book is 100% true. There isn't anything fabricated. What you read in this book is exactly what I went through. And it was a harrowing experience. I mean, to even think about I think about times when I climbed a tree, when I crawled through the swamp. In my younger years, I used to wear glasses before an operation. And I lost my glasses in the swamp, so the next day I had to go take a look at them and see that where there's at. I found them halfway between a store and the back part in the middle of the swamp. I found them. So anyway, I cleaned them up, put them on, went back to running again. But their idea of taking me in and arresting me was they were waiting for me to take them somewhere I couldn't take them. That's what saved my life. They thought I knew more than I did, but I didn't know anything. And they didn't realize that I had rules to go by in case I seen the activity falling apart. And I followed those rules. That's why I'm alive today. That's why I'm able to tell this story at 81 years old. That happened 37 years ago. So today, I'm just going to tell you, when I talk about the elderly and what things they go through and what's going on, I've been through it. I've learned how people can throw you aside and can set you apart from them, because once you get older, you can't keep up with them, you can't do with them, so they figure you're worthless and you don't know anything. But I want you to know, this is one book you need to get a hold of. And in the second segment, we will begin to talk about the senior moments. God bless. And we're back. Well, enough about the book, and I hope that you'll send us an email and let us know you're out there looking, and give me some, at this point I'd take criticism. Come on and give me a email. Drop an email to me at herb@herbkeener.com. herb@herbkeener.com. Give me an email. Tell me about some elderly things that I can share with the other people here. It's not, I have things at my fingertips that I can find out some things, but I mainly like to go through the order of what I went through, because I know what happens. And when I was when I was out there doing this, and I was in my 40s, well, then immediately after that, after I was taken out and brought back to civilization, I began to look in other directions, because by this time I had literally been released from a death sentence. And I was cleared from the law, and I was cleared from the syndicate. Two of the syndicate ended up doing a lot of time because they thought I was stealing their stuff, so they went and got it first, and the law took them. In order to keep them, they had to let me go. So it turned out that I'm back in society, and first thing I did was find out that the reason I'm still living is because of this God. So I started a church. And I went to church, and I met this young lady there. I used to go to high school with her, went to elementary school with her, and I always knew her boyfriend and her husband. I knew him better than I knew her, and here she sat, and she had been divorced. So about a month went by, and then pretty soon we went out on a date. Well, then 9 days later, we got married. We've been married 37 years, just coming February 22nd in year 22. So that's when the elderly moments began for me, is because I pastored a church for 5.5 years. I run a food bank for another 5, 6 years. Next thing you know, I'm 50. Next thing you know, I'm 60. And then I begin to notice, I was asked to go speak a lot and go do things. All of a sudden, I got about 65, no more calls, no more people coming by, no more things. That's when the senior moment began in my life, was people begin to say, well, I guess in their way, you're too old to know anything, so we're kind of done with you. And I went to Norway. I preached in a 400-year-old church, Salvation Army Church, there in Bergen, Norway. Right after that, like I said, I think I was in my 60s. Then the calls quit coming. I no longer had anything to offer these people. I guess it began too old. But I didn't give up. I kept on going, and it was a struggle to do anything. Then I found out the people that I dealt with the most was the first ones to go away. So all of a sudden I see that the older you get, the less visible you are. So when I got 70, I think I turned completely invisible. I could have got the job on the movie set, The Invisible Man. Because even including my grandkids and probably even my kids, I began to be clear, see-through, not even there. I'm sure they heard the words, but they just act like I didn't exist. So I began to do other things and began to try to see, what do you do when you're a senior? And I struggled that for years. Then when I got 75, I got the type 2 diabetes. Again, that was a threatening disease. But I got that under control. Well, when I done that, I said, that's it. What do you do when you get old? Everything you can. What do you have to lose? Absolutely nothing. So at 75, I began going back to work, doing things. I had a general contractor's license. I knew a lot of people, and some of them had let me do some of the work. And then I had opened up a overlay system with concrete. So at 70 years old, I started doing things. You can't let people determine who you are by what they think. You need to be determined who you are by what you think and what you do. And putting a number on that, as long as you're healthy, you need to be out there doing it. And if you're not doing it, then you're wasting this precious time you got left on this earth. So I began to say, well, that's good enough. And I went through some really hard times and miserable times trying to figure out where I fit in. Sometimes we never find out. So pretty soon I realized the only way I fit in is to do my own thing. Quit worrying about other people. Their opinion really didn't matter that much. If it didn't uplift you, you need to just discard it. And because there's always someone out there. I'm not the only 81-year-old person on this earth. I've seen them a lot older than I am, still working, still doing things, using their mind. And I'm telling you that there is things that you can do. You know, like I read this article where these, I've never played these games before, you know, Mario things and what, but the elderly started using that, and it helped them fight off dementia. It helped them to fight off Alzheimer's because their mind was being active. They were playing these games, and one person in their 90s said that he plays it every single day. When he gets up in the morning, it's just like the kids. You know how they do. Well, and the more he plays it, the more active his brain is, and he begins to do things. So there's ways to do things to strengthen your mind. And just don't let it relax on you. You know, I was reading an article this morning that said in 2035 there's going to be more elderly people than there are children in the United States. They say right now the middle-aged are more than children. They outnumber more than children now. But they say in 2035 the elderly will be more elderly than they are children on this planet. That's got to tell you something. You know, this medicine, every day they're finding something that will help you out from whatever you got. And so people are starting to live longer. And, you know, I read years ago where, man, it was back in the 40s probably, or 50s, or in the 30s, average lifespan was 35 years old. I'm saying, oh my goodness. Now, then it become 50. Then the next thing you know, it's 60, the average. And then now, I don't know what the average is, but I know I'm 81, and if I'm average, then I'm okay. But if I'm not, that's okay too. Statistics won't allow you to live. Your mind, your heart, your physical condition. And if I'd have knew I was going to live to be 81 years old, I'd have took better care of my body. I've got a scar right across my forehead where a big end of a poo stick opened up my head, and he broke my shoulder blade back when I was 38, 39. I made a mistake I was going to have a fair fight. I handed this guy the poo stick behind me and started beating up this guy, and that's all of a sudden that's what he did to me with it. Well, it turned out the guy I handed the poo stick to was his brother. So that wasn't a very good decision there. But see, we need to know the environment in. We need to know that we are in control. Other people can't be in control of your life. If they are, they're in control for one reason, to help themselves, not to help you. And basically, but don't get me wrong, there's good people out there that's helping people and loving people, but the average is that if you start trusting the wrong person, the next thing you know, you're going to be broke and done and thrown in a home and forgot about it. This life is precious. And I tell you what, I've got peace now. And I'm hoping during this time, if I survive this senior moment program, I hope that I'm going to be able to help. And I hope I'm going to be able to get enough information out there to where you'll know that I don't care how old you are. If you still have breath and you're physically able, that I get you up off of that couch and get you down and walk down the road and just go in a 7-Eleven, say hi, and turn around and go back out. Something, because one little step, that's what I took when I began the journey of saying, hey, if I keep whining about being old, I'm going to die cranky. But if I start knowing that I can live and I'm physically able, all the bar fights that I had have healed, and the only thing that I have that hanging on to that one is where I broke the shoulder blade. there's arthritis sitting in it. And I know that's not just a coincidence because my left shoulder doesn't bother me. But that's living with consequences. You have to deal with things of life according to how you feel is right and safe. I never was safe. I'd be crazy out there doing all kinds of stuff, driving 100 miles an hour, doing crazy things. It's a wonder I even lived to be 40, much less 81. But what I'm telling you is you need to transfer this information down to the younger crew because they think they're invincible until somebody close to them dies. Then they begin to look at themselves and wonder what's going on. You know, in the next segment, I'm going to talk about how the elderly people dress, because that's something when I was younger, I looked around and seen them in some pretty awkward looking clothing as far as I was concerned. Now, if they're happy with it, I mean, that's fine. That's none of my business. But, you know, we're going to talk a little bit about it, and I'm going to tell you what my father looked like when he took a picture one time that just totally blew me away. But the main thing is knowledge is blessing. Knowledge is where it's at. We need to know things so that we'll be able to do things. God bless. We're back. Well, as I said, I'm going to talk a little bit about it because my father, who was never around when I was a child, and he left when I was 4 years old, and I chased him until I got tired and knew it wasn't going to work until I cut him loose. And but anyway, before he died, I was able to talk with him and tell him I loved him, and he was excited about that because he was 77, I think, when he passed away. But he gave me a picture one time. Now, his shirt was kind of red and green and blue and checkered and really gone. He had some pants on that were orange and green and in checkered, and it was amazing. I couldn't believe someone would put them type of clothes on and go out in public. It actually looked like he was, and he wasn't a clownish type guy. He was always serious-minded, mad his whole life. He was born and died very unknowledgeable. But I seen that and I couldn't believe it. And the suspenders, something like yellow, and had some kind of orange tie on. And I mean, he thought he was cool. So I'm thinking, wow, that's amazing. But then as I began to look, a lot of the elderly are putting on checkered pants and putting on mismatching ties and checkered overcoats, and it really something. I pastored for 5.5 years, and one day we were having this fair thing, so I dressed up in all funny looking clothes, to me funny looking, checkered and green, and pants were checkered red, and just stuff like that. And I did it for just to have a good time and just mess around. Well, this one guy walked up and he was dressed something like I was. I said, "Oh man, we both had the same idea." He said, "What's that?" I said, "The clothes." Well, it turned out he wore them all the time. I was wearing them to be funny. So that taught me a lesson: is you don't go messing with people. Let them do what they got to do. But the one thing I would suggest the elderly people is get a full-length mirror. Because before you go outside to present yourself, you need to look and see how you look. I mean, sometimes I'll leave the house and it look like I'm warmed over death and bearded out and with all that stuff going on. But what I'm telling you is be aware who you are. Now, if you wear what I described and you're happy with it, it's nobody else's business. But if you in your heart want to present yourself and not be remembered as a funny dresser, but remembered about your mind and your business sense and how you present yourself. You know, to me, Levi's will never go out, and you wear them all times, and normal slacks and dress shoes and even tennis shoes. And there's color coordinating products that you can deal with. Don't go out and be known as the flamboyant dressing old person. If this doesn't get emails, I don't know what will. But what I'm telling you is there's a way to look. And that way is, how do you want to look? What do you want to present yourself as? Invest in a full-length mirror. And before you go out that door, you look at it. Now, every time I come on Wednesday at 2 o'clock, I check that mirror out really good because I want to present myself. Nothing fancy, nothing outlandish, just normal dress as far as I'm concerned. Now, normal dress to you may be a different thing. But what I'm saying is how you present yourself is how they will receive you. You know, if you're dressed like a clown, they're going to receive you as a clown. If you're dressed in a business manner, they're going to receive you as a business person. Then if you're dressed and just casual, they'll receive you as a casual person. And I think with all my heart that people would love, because being casual is a feeling that's comfortable between two people talking and interacting and that. Now the young people at this day and age, December 1st, 2021, now young people are out of control as far as I'm concerned, dressing-wise. I mean, the uglier they can look, the better they feel. So more power to them. But as from the older generation, we need to begin to present ourselves like we want to go out. What do you want to look like in your coffin? Start dressing that way. Then that way there won't be any surprises. Because if you wore T-shirt and Levi's all your life and they put you in a three-piece suit, then won't nobody even recognize you. So what I'm saying is take concern. It doesn't matter how you dress. It really doesn't. But take concern that you are dressing the way that you feel is appropriate. And no matter what I say or anybody else says, it's just none of their business how you look, as long as you're happy with how you look. And I wanted to bring that up because a lot of people I know did not look in the mirror before they left the house. Now that, to me, I'm saying, wow. You know, it's almost like I want to go up to them and say, hey, do you have any idea how you're presenting yourself? Because I know what I see a lot of times, they're presenting themselves as something they probably don't have any idea. And I think that comes with age. Pretty soon after everybody ignoring you and doing things, you just kind of shine it on. You say, okay. Yeah, it doesn't matter what I do or what I say, but it does. It does matter. It matters to your children. It matters to your grandchildren. It matters to your great-grandchildren. You know, like me, I'm close to being a great-great-grandfather. You know, I got 30-something great-grandchildren. So, but again, the invisible factor kicks in. I only know about 3 or 4 of them. And so Whether that's my fault or somebody else's, I don't know. But here's another thing. Never be in a place you feel you're not welcome, because that'll make you misery, hurt all over your body. I never want to be somewhere where I don't feel welcome. And I've been into a lot of homes and a lot of places, and I had to endure feeling unwelcome in there just because of family or because of somebody that I was supporting. Don't get yourself in them positions. You don't have to. You are who you are. And if the people around you don't like that, then you need to get around some people that do. Because you are made the way you are made for a reason. Everybody's beautiful inside. Now, we may be carrying a body that's not all beautiful and all that, but everybody's beautiful inside. People quit judging according to the outside appearance. Listen to the words that come out of the mouth. Listen to the personalities. Listen to the desires, and get off of that. You know, it's just the stigma of ugly is terrible. It's caused suicide. It's caused miserable. It causes all kinds of grief. Now, I'll be the first to admit, now I'm not even close to being pretty. But the main thing is, I would not trade what I feel inside me for pretty. Because number one, if you don't have peace inside, I don't care how beautiful you are, you're not going to be happy. And I don't care how ugly you are, or you feel you are, or people say that you are. If you got peace inside you, that's worth more than all the beauty in the world. And just read some of the stories of the ex-actresses and all them that went through that. When they lost their looks, they lost their job. So we need to get satisfied who we are inside. And the minute we get satisfied who we are, man, I've got a peace about me now. At 81 years old, I've got more peace than I had my entire life. And I married a beautiful, beautiful woman. Marilyn Monroe didn't have anything on her, but we all age. So now she's just beautiful in an older age. And see, you don't want to forget that. Just because the book cover's got dust on it doesn't mean the reading inside isn't still good. My wife is the most precious, caring, compassionate person that I've met in my entire life other than my mother. So I know I'm the right person. But see, that's where you need to be. That's where any of you need to be. And you that think you're so cocky and you think you're so good looking and all that, you could take a hike. These people need to know who they are. They don't need you telling them that they're ugly or they don't know anything. Because, buddy, there's consequences to bugging other people, for making fun of people, bullying people. There's consequences to that. And I tell you, it may be to the hereafter before them consequences come. But at the time the consequences come, you're going to wish that you hadn't have done that, and you wish you had embraced them instead of called them names and bullied them and all that. And you think you're all that. Because see, when it's all pulled out from under all these people that put down ugly and lift up pretty, there's consequences. And don't think for a minute there's not. Because for me, at 81, I'm a fox in my own mind. Now, what other people think, that can't bother me. because if it does, I'm more concerned in what they think than what I feel. And I'll tell you what I feel now. I've got the greatest companion, I got a good life, and I've got peace. God bless. Wow, again. We're back. Well, folks, I've rattled on about the way the elderly dress, the way they think, and what they need to do. But the main thing in this life, we need to enjoy who we are, where we are, and who we're doing it with. If any of those are missing, then we're not having a good life. There's people that want to love us, but we have to understand, and the more you will understand, that it really doesn't matter. The little things in life doesn't matter. When do things matter the most? The moment one of the people you love the most passes away. That's when you realize, how much would you give to bring them back because you love them so much? How much money, how much of your goods, even if you're a billionaire, how much of that would you give to bring them back to live until you die? More than likely, every one of you would say everything. I would give everything up for them to come back and live with me. But now we all know that's impossible. So if that's impossible, the things that you could give up, all your money, all your buildings, all your businesses, all your things, and even if you didn't have anything, you had $1,000 in the bank, you'd give that all up. But being we can't, what does that make that worth? That makes that thing that you paid more attention to than the lost loved one worth nothing. It's absolutely worth nothing. I've been going to these estate sales, and I love to go around and take a look at things. And as I'm looking, man, I get this feeling. I'm saying, wow, one of these days they're going to be rummaging through my stuff, wondering if it's worth a buck or two. And you see this person's life. You go right into the home where they were living. And then they begin to not realize, because see, you see things in the garage, in the bedrooms, in everything that they used while they were alive, and now they're gone. So you see this in the things that they had. You've seen what they was important to them. You understand now what was important to them. I mean, they got stacks and stacks and stacks of magazine. They've got furniture out in the back, and they got furniture in the house. And I bought some really neat vases and things. But then you realize these are things, number one, they couldn't take with them. But you could tell they cherished them because of the position they were in. They were planning on living. They were planning on going. They were planning on continuing life. You see that. If any of you go out to these estate sales, start looking at the pattern. Start right at the front door. You can see how they greeted people. They're selling the umbrella stand. They're selling the umbrellas. They got a nice antique sitting bench right by where you entertain them to come in. You go into the kitchen, you see all these gadgets, all these things that they had laid out that they used all the time. Now them things are worthless. And they were worthless when they were bought. They were just bought for that person's entertainment, for that person's enjoyment. Then when they died, they couldn't take them with them, so they're left behind for other people to get a good deal on or buy it for $1, and no matter what they paid. You begin to see these things and pictures hanging on the wall, and you see what type of art that they liked. And I do this quite often. I begin because it's just a hobby of mine. But I'm telling you, folks, don't get caught up in things, get caught up in people. People are what this world rotates around for. Now, you might think if you watch all the commercials on TV, you might think that Disneyland was created because it better than humans. It's not. You might think all them casinos that was put up. Now, they don't keep them lights on the casino with winners. They keep them lights on the casino for losers. So what I'm telling you is, all the things in your life, what would you give up to bring a loved one back? And you'd give it all. You'd walk out of that house with nothing but the clothes on your back and say, you can have it all if I could have my loved one back. Man, I know many people that would just say, yes, you can have it all. Some wealthy people. But see, we can't do that. That's not possible. That's impossible. So, if that's impossible, that makes everything that we would give up to bring our loved one back worthless. Makes it absolutely worthless. You look at your prized possession. If it's a physical possession, you look at that and say, wow, would I give this up for somebody to live? You see, that's the advertisement world. The people of merchandising, they try to get you tuned into the fact that that material thing is worth more than your relationship with anybody in the world. And that's not true. I understand they want to sell. I understand they want to market things. But they are fighting to make you believe things. The more things you have, the more you buy, the more that you create in abundance. That's what this life is about. But it's not. I don't care if you drive a stretch limousine, you sit in the back, you got a chauffeur. When you die, that chauffeur is going to take another job. That limousine is going to be sold. And you're going to be dead. Don't look at things like they are the most important thing in the world. Sure, it's nice and it's pretty and it's flashy. Sure, I like nice things too. I love Jaguar cars. Had one for years. But then I run out of money and time. The Jaguar got too many miles on it and wore out, so it'd gone away. I'd just never been able to get another one. But that's okay. At the time I had it, I thought that was the most important thing in my life. I realize now that should have been the least important thing in my life. Just like you, whoever you are. I don't care how much money you got in the bank. I don't care how little you got in the bank. If any of that is more important than your relationship with someone, and I'm going to tell you now, here's another thing. You start getting in your old age, don't put up with all that garbage kids hand out, grandkids hand out. Don't take that to the grave with you. Because, see, that's a big waste of time. Because if they're loving you and caring for you, then you embrace them. But if they're being ugly and all they want is things from you, kick them out the gate. Start living for love, not living for things. And let me tell you, the more you give them, the more they want. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your effort. I had a lot of money at one time, and I understand that. I lived that. But I mean, it was my own fault. It wasn't theirs, by no means. But what I'm saying, for you people that are in a position, don't get yourself broke trying to satisfy somebody that doesn't even like you. Love, you'll know the difference. You look in their eyes, you'll know the difference between a greedy look and a love look. You know, it's powerful. It's just, you start judging people by how much you love them and how much they love you. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. If you're ever in a situation that love runs one way, not only you being miserable, but that person that doesn't love you, they'll be miserable too. You'll do nothing but fight and act out and be stupid. In this program, I've got a daughter-in-law in Valley Springs. Her name's Judy. I use her as a sounding board. I'm really going to be interested in what she thinks about this one. But she's a true person. She'll tell you like it is, whether you like it or not. And that's what you need when you're trying to be. Be with those that love you enough to tell you the truth. Don't talk to them people just trying to pacify you so you'll do something for them. Recognize that. Don't take that greedy manipulation for love, because it's nowhere close. Love is truthful. They're going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Love is an ingredient that keeps people together. My wife and I, oh my goodness, I don't even understand why she stayed with me so long. But I do now, because now I take care of her. But for years, we're fixing to be married 37 years. I was a grouchy old man for years. I liked her when I wanted something, but after that, I didn't, I just grouchy old man. So what I'm telling you is be sure that you're investing in someone who loves you as well as you love them. Everybody loves their children. You can't help but do that. That's God intended it for it to be that way. Now I see in the news where children are killing their parents. Parents are killing their children. I mean, the worst I've ever seen it. I've seen 4 or 5 cases just this last week of a man shooting his 3 children and his ex-wife. Now, you know what? I can't even justify him killing his wife. Definitely can't justify him killing his children. What did they do? You see, we need to know who we are. Why are you living? Just to be here? Just to exist? Bring joy to somebody else. And the way you bring joy to someone is with love. Then when you give them a gift, you see their eyes sparkle in them. Not say, is this it? That's all you're going to give me? I've heard that a few times. What I'm telling you is, be careful how you invest your life into other people. Because wouldn't that be sad? Right up to the day you're going to die, then you realize the day before you're going to die, I should have never tolerated that. But see, then it's too late. Now you need to start looking. God didn't intend for you to be miserable. Didn't intend for me to be miserable. But it took me 80 years to figure out that I didn't have to be miserable, and I could bless my people around me instead of make them miserable and awkward and all that. Love is a great thing, but it's just like money. If you don't spend it, you don't get anything. Start letting them know how much you love them so they can reciprocate. See you next Wednesday at 2 o'clock. God bless you all.